Nancy hung up. On Tuesday, Nancy went to the jeweler to have her jewelry appraised. To her great surprise, she was told that all her jewelry was made of gilded copper and was cheap. She cursed Bill for giving her fake gifts. She then rushed to a fine art gallery where she met an appraiser. "I would like to know how much my Pagnell train station costs?" asked Nancy. The man took the painting and carefully examined every square inch. "Railway station is Pagnell's best work. He managed to put all the emotions into one work. There is an arrival, a departure, happiness and sadness glued together." He carefully placed the painting on the easel and directed the lamplight onto it. He took a magnifying glass and began to examine. After a couple of minutes, he started laughing. "Is there something wrong?" asked Nancy, puzzled. "Wait, I'll show you something." The man brought his laptop, placed it on the table next to his easel, and opened a website. He pressed a few keys and an image of this painting appeared on the screen. He zoomed in on the bottom left corner. You see here on the platform, there is a man and a little girl watching a woman walking towards the train, her back to them. The man looks very sad and the girl is crying. "I see it. So what?" Nancy was a little confused. "Now look at the same scene in your painting." The man handed Nancy a magnifying glass. Nancy took a quick glance at the lower left corner and nearly fainted. "In your painting, both the man and the little girl are laughing and showing the middle finger to the woman as if they are mocking her. So this is it." "It's fake," muttered Nancy. "Yes, I'm very sorry, but good." "Oh my God." Nancy pulled out a chair and sat down hopelessly. "I can offer you $200. I just want to hang it up so my friends and clients can have a good laugh." Nancy made the deal and left like a broken woman. Her phone rang and she found out her sister's number. "Hi, little sister," Nancy said, trying to hide her grief. "Don't call me sis, you bitch," her sister's angry voice shouted at her. "What? Why?" "Tom received an email from an unknown person also sent to all our relatives and mutual friends. There is a link to an adult website. There are tons of videos of you having sex with your boyfriend, all dated from last year to last week. How could you, Nancy? You had sex with some asshole in your marital bed, and some of the scenes take place in a 2-cent hotel room," her sister's voice screamed. "I need to explain." "You don't need to explain anything to me. You're disgusting. Tom doesn't want you around his family. He said that you will defile me and my daughter. Our doors are closed to you. Go to your lover, slut." The phone went off. Oh my God. He knew from the very beginning. Nancy had a terrible look on her face. What should I do now? She felt dizzy. Everyone knows. The whole city knows. I have to leave here. Run away. Run away. 5 years later, Bill was sitting in the front row at church. He thought about the phone call he received that morning. He didn't tell anyone about this. How could he do this on such a significant day? He had just walked Lisa down the aisle. He looked at the couple at the altar. Lisa said yes to her boyfriend, the guy she had been dating since her freshman year of college. His thoughts returned to the day when a crying Lisa called him. He remembered that he was in his office when his princess called. "Daddy, Daddy, please come home," Lisa cried. "What's going on, honey? Why are you crying?" asked a stunned Bill. "Please, Dad, go now. I'm waiting on the street in front of our house." "In front of the house? What's wrong? I'll call your mom." "No, don't call her. Just come. Please, Dad," Lisa begged. "I'm on my way, honey." On the way to his house, Bill began to worry. A variety of thoughts raced through his head. Why wasn't his daughter at school? Why was she outside the house and not inside? Why didn't she want him to warn Nancy? Was she injured? Suddenly he slammed on the brakes with a roar of tires. He was about to run a red light. Keep calm, he told himself. He knew that Lisa had been working on the project until late the evening before. He even helped her and gave her some ideas. Together, they put everything into a PowerPoint file and saved it to a USB drive. Lisa was waiting 1 block down the street. Bill stopped the car and she jumped inside. "Please don't go into the house, Dad." "Okay, Lisa. Tell me, what's going on?" Bill turned off the engine. "I forgot my USB drive this morning when I was rushing to school. I received special permission to come home during lunch to pick him up. I saw an old Honda in our driveway. I entered the house and heard strange sounds coming from your and your mother's bedroom. I quietly walked up the stairs and looked into the bedroom. The door was not completely closed. Lisa began to cry. "Okay, honey, breathe," Bill said in a soothing voice. He stroked her back. "Do not rush. I saw a man. They were both naked. They had sex, Dad. She's cheating on you, on us." Lisa sobbed again. Bill sat in shock. He realized that his 17-year-old daughter knew what cheating and sex were. "Are you sure about what you saw?" He turned to face her. "I recorded this on my phone." She took out her cell phone and turned it on for her father. Bill's world suddenly stopped when he heard Nancy moaning. "Get her out of the house, Dad. I don't want to see her anymore. She's not my mom. My mother would never do such things." "I'll have to think about it." "What do you need to think about? Just throw her out." "It's not that simple, honey. There are legal procedures to follow." "Tell me, Dad, do you still want to stay with her? Do you still want to sleep with her?" "I don't condone cheating. But we will need to know why she did it. Whether it was a one-time affair, or she did it for a long time, or whether she will continue it." "Here he is." Lisa pointed at the Honda pulling out of the driveway and turned away from them. "Let's follow the guy." Bill started the engine. They followed Honda into the store. They found a guy putting on a uniform jacket as he left his car in the parking lot and headed towards the employee entrance. "He works here. He's still young," said Bill. "Young or not, I don't care," Lisa answered, taking several pictures of the guy and his car. "We already know what's happening. So, honey, I'll give you a ride to school. I'll go home, pick up your flash drive and bring it to you. I'll tell your mom." "She is not my mother," Lisa shouted to her father. "I'll tell Nancy that you called me and asked me to bring it to you. I don't want you to meet her alone. Not now. Not at any other time. You understand?" "I understand. But why?" "For the simple reason that I don't want her to know that we know. I don't want you to spill the beans out of anger." "What are you going to do?" "I want to know everything you do. I want you to keep me updated." "Do you promise?" "Yes, Princess, I promise to keep you posted." "I love you, Dad." Lisa hugged Bill. "I love you too. Now take me to school and quickly bring me the USB since my lesson will start soon." Bill parked in the driveway and walked into the house. "Darling, I'm home." Nancy ran out of the bedroom with shock on her face. She thought she had just dodged a bullet. "Oh, Bill, it's you. Who would you like it to be?" He looked Nancy straight in the eyes. "I didn't expect you at this hour." Lisa called. She forgot her flash drive. "I need to bring it to her." He walked up to Nancy and smelled sex coming from her. "Do we have time for quick sex?" "Quickly? No. The thing is that I was a little tired from cleaning the house and was very sweaty. You won't like it. And you need to bring Lisa her USB drive." "You're right." At work, Bill scoured the internet for the best video and audio surveillance device, as well as cell phone spy software. Later, he went to an electronics store and bought everything he needed. He made one main decision. From this day forward, he will never touch his wife. As promised, he will share everything with Lisa. Over the next 3 months, he learned a lot. He knew everything about Nancy's lover, Jason White. Jason came to their house almost every day, either in the morning when he worked the second shift or during lunch. On weekends, when Nancy had to go shopping, she would stop by his house if he was not working. She also had a spare key. Bill found out that she buys a lot of things for Jason. He also listened to a conversation between Nancy and her best friend, Betty, in which they shared all their secrets. That's how he found out that Betty is engaged in having sex with my brother-in-law. One Saturday, Bill rummaged through Nancy's purse and found a key hidden at the bottom. He quickly drove to the mall and removed the duplicate key. The following week, he visited Jason's apartment. It was an old building in a notorious part of town. The place was so cheap that there were no security cameras, and the main entrance to the building wasn't even locked. He placed several tiny hidden spy cameras in the apartment, controlled by small, long-life lithium button cells. He also searched everywhere and found all the expensive things that Nancy had bought. Bill began to develop a plan to get out of this relationship, both with maximum damage to both Nancy and her lover. He asked a jeweler to make copies of all of Nancy's jewelry, which were to be made of gilded copper. He then ordered a fake painting of Pagnol's railway station, painted by a professional with special instructions. He met a childhood friend, Steve, who was a corporate lawyer. When he explained his plan, the lawyer scheduled a meeting for a couple of days later. That day, Steve introduced him to his cousin, Linda, who was an auditor and an expert in her field. Bill was honest and straightforward with them. He wanted to legally sink his company and then control it from a distance. In a couple of years, he will ask his daughter Lisa to buy out the company. He often met with Linda, either in her office or they had lunch together. She was a widow. Her husband died in a car accident. She had a 10-year-old son and had not dated anyone since her husband's death. Gradually, a friendship arose between them. One day, he invited her to dinner and then to a movie. She agreed. That same evening, Lisa went to spend the night with her friend, and Bill pretended to work late. Bill pulled into Linda's driveway. "Thank you for accepting the invitation," he said to Linda. "This is my first date since my husband died." "I understand, and I hope you liked it." "Yes." "Can we do this again sometime when you're free?" "We have to work together, and you're still married." She leaned over and kissed Bill on the cheek. "Let's do one thing at a time." She opened the car door and walked towards her house. Bill advised Nancy to change her car. She was a little reluctant because she liked her Lexus. When he told her that driving a BMW convertible would make her look younger, she readily agreed. The Lexus was fully paid for, so Bill sold it and cashed out. He took out a car loan for a BMW and put it in Nancy's name. When she signed the document, she thought it was for a certificate of ownership. In between documents, she signed other papers that would come back to bite her later. A couple of weeks later, Bill noticed that when Nancy goes to the bathroom after sex, Jason leaves the bedroom naked and goes to Lisa's room. He drew Lisa's attention to this, and she became extremely furious. They decided to install a camera in her room. What they found was alarming. Jason opened the drawer, took Lisa's underwear, and stroked his manhood with it. That afternoon, while Nancy was sitting on the couch, Lisa approached her from behind with a knife. If Bill had not intervened at this point, Lisa would have hurt or even killed Nancy. Later in the evening, Lisa told her father that she would not have gone to jail if she had killed Nancy because she was still a minor. Bill wasn't surprised when he heard Jason urging Nancy to divorce him and send him to the cleaners. But one thing the lovers didn't know was that he was already one step ahead. He knew that Nancy often let Jason drive the BMW and even let him have sex with her in the back seat. He knew when Nancy went to see the divorce lawyer Paul suggested, and he also knew that the lawyer had done some research into his company and all of his assets. He waited a couple of days and took out a second mortgage on his house to pay for Lisa's full tuition. The next day, he declared himself bankrupt. He knew that the day he was served, Betty would change the locks on his house when they were in New York. During a barbecue party the weekend before Lisa left, both father and daughter played their part. Paul and Betty were as friendly as ever. Paul even helped cook some meat on the grill. No one would have thought that they were traitors. That Friday morning, while Nancy was in the bathroom, Bill took her cell phone and sent Jason a text message. "I'm coming to your house at 8, and I want you to have sex with me before I go with them for the last time. Get permission from work and hurry home to fuck what will always be yours. I'll tell them that I need to buy a few things. Don't call or text me. I'll leave my cell phone at home in case they call me and ask where I am. See you soon, my future husband." Bill deleted the message after sending it and put the phone back in Nancy's purse. What Jason didn't know was that as soon as he walked into his apartment, 3 men would pounce on him and beat him up. With a knife to his throat, they force him to send a resignation email to his manager. Then there will be another email to the building owner saying he will be leaving at the end of the month. They will then drug him with tranquilizers, clean out his apartment, remove the spy cameras, and take whatever they can carry, pretending he's gone forever. They will wrap his body in a carpet, put him in a van, and drive away. One of the people will drive his car. Jason will never be seen again. Neither Lisa nor Linda would have known what Bill did to Jason. This will be his secret, which he will take with him to the grave. On Friday afternoon, after being served, Bill checked into a motel room. He laughed as he watched the evening news about Paul and his adulterous wife. Before dinner, one of the men who was in Jason's apartment visited him. He gave Bill all the cameras and received the final payment. Not a word was spoken. He didn't even tell Bill where Jason's body was buried. On Saturday morning, Bill left the motel, bought a new cell phone, and threw away his old one. He called Lisa and gave her his new number. He drove to Linda's house. There, he spent all his time editing videos. He blurred out Jason's face because he didn't want the police to make a connection between the two lovers if Jason were ever reported missing. He stayed in the guest room and at the same time became friends with Linda's son. Bill and Linda began the final phase of their plan when an elderly couple from Seattle bought his company. The couple were actually Linda's aunt and uncle. Not a single employee was fired. On Monday, Lisa called him and said that Nancy was looking for him. They both laughed. He later uploaded all the videos to an adult website. Using a fake email address, he sent a link to all the people they knew, including Nancy's brother-in-law. He continued to stay with Linda for the next 3 months until his divorce case was heard. They continued to date, but without any sexual contact. Linda made it clear that Bill would only touch her when he was single and not before. Bill agreed because he wanted to keep his vows for the rest of the marriage. One of the advantages of staying with Linda was that if there was any investigation, Bill would say that he was penniless and couldn't afford to pay rent, and that his friend Linda was kind enough to let him take over her guest room until he was back on his feet. On the day of the hearing, Nancy was absent from court. Since Nancy's house and car had already been repossessed, and Bill was broke and unemployed, the judge granted the divorce without alimony or division of property. Nancy's lawyer did not object. Later in the corridor, they ran into each other. "You are a very smart man, Mr. Thompson," said the lawyer. "Really?" Bill frowned and walked away. "Dad, wake up!" His daughter's voice brought him back to the present. "Yes, honey, what were you talking about? This is the dance of the father of the bride. Everyone is looking at us, but you don't move at all." "Sorry, princess. I was thinking about something else." Bill took his daughter's hand, turned her around, and they both began to move to the beat of the music. "Now I need to dance with your mother," Bill said to Lisa when the song ended. "And I promised my younger brother that he would be third on the list." Lisa smiled. Bill approached Linda and invited her to the dance floor. Later, Bill walked up to the bar and ordered whiskey. He sat down, and his thoughts went back to the phone call he had received that morning at home in his bedroom. "Good morning, Mr. Thompson. I am Dr. Henry D'Souza from Dallas, Texas. This concerns your wife." "What's wrong with my wife?" Bill asked, confused. "She's in the next room now." "I mean Nancy Thompson." Bill hasn't heard that name in 5 years. He threw himself on the bed. "I'm listening, doctor." "I am a psychologist, and I am treating my patient Nancy Thompson in her last days." "Her last days?" "Yes, Mr. Thompson. Do you have a few minutes to let me briefly explain the situation?" "Yes, go ahead," said a confused Bill. "Your wife, your ex-wife, told me about her life from the time she was a little girl until we met. She said that you were the only man she knew until she met a certain Jason, and she made a huge mistake, which she realized later. She mentioned the divorce she was planning and the consequences. She is sure that you knew about this affair and set her up. She accepts her fate and the loss of her husband and daughter as much as she was the one who wronged you. The day she left town, she only had $200 in her pocket. She wanted to move as far away as possible because of what she had done and also because of the videotapes of her sexual antics. She took the first bus that left and made it to Texas. She got a job as a waitress in a dingy, second-rate bar on Interstate 20 that was frequented mostly by truck drivers. The owner rented her a room on the first floor for a small fee, but in exchange he had sex with her whenever he wanted. A year later, she was pregnant, and since she had no health insurance, she went to a cheap quack for an abortion. The guy performed an unsuccessful operation on her, damaging some of her organs. A year later, the owner began pumping between her and truckers. Some used protection and some did not. When she was brought to the hospital, she had an acute venereal disease and was already infected with AIDS. She has lost a lot of weight and knows she is dying. Her last wish is to see you before she dies. Doctor, I'm really sorry to hear this. My daughter is getting married today. I'll call you next week. Don't waste too much time, Mr. Thompson. I'll give you my direct line number. Hey, honey, don't drink too much. You'll have to take us home later. Linda hugged her husband and kissed him tenderly. You are the best thing that ever happened to me, darling. Bill pushed his glass away. I will never put you or our son in danger. Let's dance. A couple of days later, Bill called Dr. DeSouza from his office and informed him that due to his heavy workload, he would not be able to make the trip south. The doctor recommended that Bill at least talk to Nancy on the phone. He will transmit the call to the ward where she was. He had a cordless phone that the nurse would take to Nancy's bedside. Bill, is that you? Bill heard a weak voice from the past. Yes, Nancy, it's me. Oh, Bill. Nancy began to cry. I'm sorry, Bill. I really am sorry for what I did to you and our family. Now I'm paying for it. I forgave you, Nancy. I continued to live my life, and I'm happy. Bill took a deep breath. I have to thank you. After my divorce, I married the most wonderful woman in the world, and we had a son. Lisa absolutely loves her new mom, and they both get along very well. By the way, she got married last Saturday. It was a wonderful wedding ceremony. Her mother took care of everything. Lisa's children will no doubt call her grandmother. We are both waiting for this moment. Bill heard Nancy begin to sob. Then he heard a loud, continuous, high-pitched sound of medical equipment and noise in Nancy's room. He waited and finally heard a frightened voice. Mr. Thompson, I'm Nurse Angela Smith. Sorry, I'll have to hang up. And the phone went off. Bill looked at the family photo on his desk. He smiled. He who laughs last, laughs best, he said to himself. Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one. Listening to the next one.